Hello and welcome back to the Credit Academy. On today's episode, we're going to be talking a little bit more in depth on the credit report. Now, we've discussed in detail kind of the credit score as well as kind of the differences between both FICO and Vantage. So on today's episode, we want to dive a little bit deeper into kind of that piece of paper that really makes up and calculates into your credit scores. So a lot of people, when they think of a credit report, they just assume they're meaning the credit score, but they are two entirely separate entities, but they are closely related to one another, kind of like what I just briefly mentioned. Everything that goes into calculating your credit score is going to be found on your credit report. So really kind of think about it as a in-depth look at your credit score. So before we jump on into it, like always, if you're enjoying the content we're doing over here at The Credit Agents, be sure to like and subscribe and definitely hit that bell icon to get notified anytime we go live with a brand new episode. So diving on into things, what exactly is a credit report? Well, first things first, you need to be aware of what the credit report exactly is and what kind of goes on into the credit report. It's going to be divided into a bunch of different categories, which are all weighted separately depending on the credit score that is being used. So credit reporting agencies and bureaus, which we have discussed in the past, which the three major ones being Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, all have their own separate credit reports. Now, they're going to be collecting information from the lenders, which in this case, the lenders are going to be who you're directly borrowing from for, say, a credit card from, Chase Bank or Bank of America, something like that, and then they report all the information to the credit bureaus. But because each of the three credit bureaus are separate entities, certain items may get reported to one or two, while maybe one is left out or doesn't get the items reported. So that is why kind of the credit reports themselves can have some discrepancies when being compared against. So what exactly are the credit reports used for then? Well, whenever you're applying for a brand new line of credit, the lender is actually going to pull your credit report, not your credit score. Now, the report itself, in a lot of cases, is going to have your score kind of attached to it in a viewable form, but really they want to take an in-depth look at all of the different types of categories you have on said credit report, and that gives them a kind of more in-depth idea of where you lie when it comes to the application itself. So aside from lenders pulling your credit reports, businesses can also view your credit reports to send you kind of specialized offers for, say, insurance, as well as determining kind of your eligibility for apartments and or renting. So really anytime you're sending out an application for, say, getting a home, like a mortgage, or if you're looking into kind of renting, say, an apartment or a townhome or something like that, your credit report is going to be pulled and is actually going to factor into kind of your approval for the application. Also, certain services and utilities are also going to be taking a look at your credit report, such as internet, as well as applying for electricity and or water. So it is very, very important that you also stay up to date on what exactly is on your credit report. And finally, certain jobs will also take a look at your credit report. Now, this one isn't always a guarantee. Probably most jobs, I would say, aren't going to actually look at your credit report, but some of them kind of delving more into the financial side of things, say as a accountant or financial supervisor position, they may pull your credit report to get an idea of financially how you're doing. So diving on into the specifics of kind of the credit report itself, it's going to be separated into a couple of major categories. So what are going to be those categories? Well, the first category is personal information. And like the name implies, this category is going to really focus on kind of all of the personal information tied to who you are as a person. In a lot of cases, this is to verify your own identity during the application process. So really your name, or if you're married and you have a maiden name, it's going to have probably both of those names, as well as any and all previous addresses kind of listed under the personal information section. So it's also going to have things like your birth date, social security number, as well as some of your contact info. Now, when it comes to, you in the future deciding to dispute, one of the major things we want to do and try to educate you guys on is that you should only have your most up-to-date information listed here. So really anything that's kind of old or unused, like any old addresses that you haven't been at or lived at for more than 6 months, you may want to request that to be moved. That is definitely recommended if you choose to go the disputing route, but we'll dive on into that a little bit later because I am getting ahead of myself. So diving on into the second kind of major category of your credit report, which is going to be credit accounts. Now, once again, like the name implies, this will kind of include all of your credit history. So any open or closed accounts that are really opened in your name or a part of your credit history can be listed here. So this includes things like auto loans as well as credit cards or any other type of standard installment loans such as mortgages as well. Also, your credit limits are going to be updated here. So anytime you get a credit limit increase or decrease, it will be updated to reflection here, which is very important to note. Also, current account balances are going to be listed for each of the specific accounts. So it's going to be very in-depth, and depending on where you're at on your credit journey, this section can be quite lengthy because as you build up credit, you are going to have a kind of more diverse amount of credit lines here. So also, account payment history is going to be probably the most important aspect to this kind of major category. This will have all of your payments kind of listed, whether they were on time, in full, or maybe late, as well as collection accounts as well. Also, of course, the creditor and lender are going to be listed with each major account. So they're going to be able to track, which type of accounts you have with which lender, as well as, once again, the payment history of said accounts, as well as hard inquiries and soft inquiries. So finally, they're going to have a public records section, which this one's going to kind of highlight a lot of the other financial kind of happenings going on with you. So this includes things like foreclosures, as well as bankruptcies, civil suits and judgments, liens, and much, much more. But for some of you, you may not have a lengthy section here, which you shouldn't be afraid. A lot of the times it's going to have kind of more negative inquiries listed here, so you shouldn't have to worry about this too much, especially if you're just starting your credit journey today. So this begs the major question of where can you check your credit report? Well, under the FCRA, also known as the Fair Credit Reporting Act, you are legally obliged to one free credit check from each of the main 3 credit bureaus: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Now, if you go to annualcreditreport.com, you can actually apply for each of these 3 credit reports from each of the major credit bureaus. If you're somebody who likes to do it kind of the more snail mail way, you can go on this website and request the annual credit report request form and choose to mail it in. And finally, the third option you will have is be able to call in your request at the provided number, 1-877-322-8228. So aside from your free credit report, there are going to be a ton of great third-party options available to you for you to also check your credit report, but we're going to discuss some of those in a later episode. So this was just kind of a brief introduction onto your credit report, and your credit report is a very important and instrumental part with you and your credit journey. You're never going to stop checking it as it's always updating, and it's a very important tool to get familiar with. We know that this much information can be overwhelming, so over the next couple of episodes, we'll dive into a little bit more detail and give you a little bit more information on the credit reports and specifics behind what makes them up. So stick around when we talk about the most important category on the credit report, the payment history, in the next episode. So my name is Michael, and you guys have been watching the Credit Academy. Thank you guys so much for tuning on in. Be sure to check out the description box down below for all of the links to our Facebook groups where you can find like-minded individuals kind of assisting them with their credit journey as well as assisting you, as well as check out our Instagram and TikTok for more credit education content. And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter and try out our services here at the Credit Agents. Thank you guys once again so much for tuning on in, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.